Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Street Bullies. My name is Derek, and no John tonight.
I'm Hogs, everybody.
There's Hoagie. The Matts are here. Matt Hoagland, Hoagie, Matt Casey's here as well. What's up, Casey?
Good evening.
Are we ready to get into it, fellas?
Yeah, I was trying to find a GIF for my post, which I try to do in time, but my computer sucks now.
Oh boy.
I mean, you could pick a really positive one considering the way this team's playing right now coming out of the All-Star break, so that's a good one.
Know what I'm looking for? All right, I found it.
You know, for the
I found a bipolar GIF because we are bipolar.
Oh, interesting.
Are we bipolar?
Well, I mean, was it one of you guys that said this is exactly what we needed? I mean, this team needed the All-Star break badly. Yeah, 100%. And it's paying dividends, guys. I mean, we're on a 4-game win streak now, albeit we just beat the Arizona Coyotes, who barely have a home to play in. But
hey,
nonetheless,
don't judge it, man. Like, a win's a win, because we lost to Columbus, we lost to San Jose. What other crapola teams have we lost? Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, 2 points is 2 points.
There's more wins than losses at this point.
There is, including overtime losses. So they're above Hockey 500, which is fantastic. Right. But yeah, let's get into the win streak here. So we started out with the Florida Panthers coming right out of the All-Star break. The Flyers took that game. Then they had a game against Seattle where Lauren Hart was not in attendance. Cal Peterson was in net, and the Flyers still pulled it out. So up yours, Dave Haxtell.
Our pets' heads are falling off.
Then Winnipeg, another tough opponent, but just like the first time around, the Flyers took it to them. And then the last game against Arizona. So 4-0 in those 4 games. Urson 3-0 and looking pretty damn good. Hoagie, surmise your feelings towards this 4-game win streak for me.
Holy crap, this is fun. Honestly, I mean, the Florida game was a little nerve-wracking because it was right out of the break. You could tell both teams were rusty. It's per expected. But I mean, the Winnipeg game, even though they started off hot and then kind of like tailed off, like I thought it was still a pretty exciting game to watch because they kind of tailed off and they were able to kind of play on their toes at that point. I completely understand for Torts, rapping on them because it was a bad look, obviously. And honestly, I'm just going to talk about the Coyotes game because that was just a roller coaster of a game with 0 for 7 on the power play, which is abysmal, but still scoring 4, 5 with open net against a piss poor Coyotes team. Like with going 0-7, that was just a wild game to watch last night.
Right. Yeah. I mean that, and I'll get into it later. I want to hear what Matt Casey has to say first, but yeah, that was gutsy game. So Matt Casey, your take on the 4-game win streak there.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're finding ways to win finding different ways to win each night. And I would say with the exception of the Seattle game, which I do think they played a fairly complete game, even though that was the closest. Well, Florida was 2-1, but it was a close game, but it was the most complete game that they played. But Winnipeg, I mean, I watched that, and those, I think it was widely spread. The last 2 periods of that game where I was like, dude, we do not deserve this. Now, on the flip side, that's a bit of karma because we've played plenty of games where we've, outshot somebody 40-20 and lost 2-1. And so, it goes both ways. It's just a matter of like, do you have the maturity to end up pulling those tight games out when you don't have your A game? And right now this team's doing it. The Arizona game last night really just kind of bored me. Like it was a brutal game until probably midway through the second period. And then they finally turned it up. You saw Lawton play well. He didn't get on the score sheet, I don't think, but I think Noah Cates is starting to get back into form, which is good to see. We're definitely going to need that. It's good to see Lawton play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder as well. He's had goals in the last couple games. So overall, it's crazy. You just see the pre-All-Star break team who was just winded. We've been beaten down just by schedule, and that last week was just a grind. And you saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and it kind of, at least I didn't really care if they won or lost. I just wanted them to get there, and if you got points along the way, great. But it's really great to see this team. Every time you think they're down and out, they pop back up like one of those friggin' whack-a-mole things. And it's good to see. And we have a favorable schedule over the next couple weeks, and a lot of scoreboard watching is going to happen. But hey, we're in a good position right now. Almost, we're getting close to March and almost playing meaningful games, just like Bogey and I predicted.
Right? Isn't it nice to be right for once, Casey?
Hey, it just shows what kind of analytical minds we are.
Just relish in it, fellas. Relish in it.
It's the numbers.
We'll get into a little bit of the performances here in terms of kind of the all-stars for that 4-game stretch. So right at the top of the list, and I'm going to forego the forwards and the skaters here. My all-star right now, and I will make this like a roundtable discussion, but my all-star is Sam Ersson at this point. I mean, you're looking at a guy who started the year out pretty rough. There were some bumps in the road for sure. These past 4 games, he started 3 of them, 3-0-0. His goals against average is probably floating around a 1.8. I didn't do the math, nor did I care to do so. I'm just, I try to be good with numbers. Save percentage, 932. That I did do the math, so my calculator did the math. Regardless, it's looked fantastic. And the one thing I think that sets it aside is the fact that the game against Arizona in, I think, the 16th minute of the third period, you're looking at 4 minutes left, he had a beautiful glove save that it has been a long time since I've seen a goalie make a save like that with the confidence that he made it with. So
enough of this Olay shit.
Get in front of the ball, Dorn. I mean, that's the type of play, though. Like, we've seen Hart make those saves before, too. Like, we've seen all the other saves. But, like, for a young kid in his first real full year, making a flashy save like that and just the confidence that it takes to do that, like, whether he's in position, out of position, he's doing fantastic. That's my all-star these past 4 games. I mean, tell me a little bit about yours, Casey.
Yeah, I think Ersson is definitely up there, and I'll choose a different one. But just to play off of that, I was nervous when Hart when missing the you could see there was a little bit of a lack of confidence for a few games there that had me nervous. But as we said, the team in front of them wasn't playing like the team that is playing in front of them now. So I'm with you with Ersson on that. I would say, the easy money for me would be connecting, but I'm going to choose a different one. I'm going with Nick Seeler on this one.
I like it.
I think Nick has slowly and surely become the heart and soul, and the personification of what this team is. He's not flashy. He's not going to net goals, but he takes the body. He fight when he needs to. He blocks shots like a friggin' banshee.
14 to be exact over these past 4 games.
And you look at those, and my college lacrosse coach used to call those hustle points. And it's like, all right, these are the hustle points you're going to get. And those are the things that, block shot shows up on the stat sheet, but like that's underappreciated stuff. And the guys just got to feel like a punching bag some nights. But you got to think it's one of those pieces where it's a hidden one where if you lose it, you don't realize what you got until it's gone. And I'm not saying sign the guy for an 8-year contract or anything like that, but right here, right now on Valentine's Day Eve, Nick Sealer, you stole my heart, buddy. I love you.
Here's where we miss John Gove with the pump the brakes there.
Sealed the deal with Casey.
All right, Hoagie, who's your all-star these past 4 games?
I mean, there's plenty of all-stars. You said Erson, he's been playing lights out lately. Sealer, if anybody wants to throw a over-under for 3 blocks a night, go for the over because he's getting it.
Yep.
It's easy money. I mean, there's also other players out there. I mean, you have Lawton, you have TK, you have plenty of guys that are really, they're coming back from the break fresh. My guy right now is Morgan Frost. I mean, he was playing good before the break.
Oh, you suck.
Oh, I'm going with it. I've slandered him enough. I'm going to go with it. He looks like a different. Nope. Do not call me that.
I'll let you talk.
Slanderous.
I like the way he's playing. And honestly, I'm going by the eye test because the way he's skating with the puck, the way he's handling the puck, making passes, scoring goals. I'm not going to say it will because that's just silly to say, but he has a feel for the puck right now, and it's encouraging to see. Yes, I would love to see him do it from October to December as well. But if this is a player that gets hot in the second half of the season and can continue that through a playoff type of thing, who's to be mad at that? That's the type of player that you want to get hot right now.
Know who was like that? Know who was like that? Danny Briere.
Exactly, because
another guy with the same
playoffs himself,
Eric Bob.
Yeah.
Well, it's the guy with the same number.
It's true. That is true. You think Danny has an affinity for Morgan Frost just because of the same number thing.
You never know. But
do you think?
No.
Has he played? I would say last night.
I don't think.
Last night he was a force last night. I'll give him that. In full transparency, I was only able to catch
three tripping penalties?
Three penalties, and that penalty shot that he took, I was like, oh no, what are you doing? That takes confidence, man. That takes some stones to end up doing that thing. Do you think? Do you think this is just a flash in the pan again, or do you think this is sustainable for the next 6 weeks?
I mean, he did it last year, so I feel confident in him, trending in this right direction. He's confident right now. Yep. You can see that with the swagger that he's playing with.
Mm-hmm. Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
No.
Go, girl.
So, how many games? Well, I'd be interested to see, and obviously it's easily looked up, but I just don't feel like putting forth the effort. How many games has Morgan Frost played against the Coyotes? And how many points does he have against the Coyotes?
I mean,
there was a 4-point night last year against Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. A 4-point night, right? Another 2-point night last night, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yep.
I'm not saying this to say that I don't like the fact that he's producing, but against those lesser teams, he is producing, which is good because he should be. But I'd like to see that type of production against some of the better opponents, the Bostons, the Torontos, the Rangers of the league, things like that. Not to say that I don't think he's capable. I fully believe that he is. But it's happening every single time against these bad teams, and everybody's like, he looks great. I'm like, he does. He does look great. I test, like Hoagie said, even the advanced analytics are showing he's one of the elite forwards in the league as of late.
Right. Compared him to Connor McDavid.
Ooh. I don't ever want to hear those two in the same sentence.
Someone did it.
I know who did it, and he shares the same name as me, and I am embarrassed, quite frankly. But regardless.
Can I bounce off of that? Because, I mean, the past couple of games with, Florida and Winnipeg, he's looked pretty good in those games, too. He's playing he's playing with the puck as if he doesn't think he's going to give up that puck when he's crossing the blue line. And I forget who talked about it. It may have been Martinez the other day where, last year Frost would go from the outside to in.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's playing straight through the middle of the ice, and that just tells you how confident he is with the puck on the stick. And I don't know, it's just something about him. He kind of floats with it now. Where
what I did notice last night was that behind the play there was a coyote along the near boards, and like just before the camera pans to have him out of the shot, you see Frost give him a little bump into the boards, and I'm like, okay. I'm
He's
like,
getting a little scrappy. Yeah.
I'm like, I like that. I like that chippiness. Like, I want to see that. I don't want to see him, go overboard with it like Farabee did early on in his career. But I enjoy seeing that because he's a timid type of guy. And to see something, some little like spark go, it's exciting. I mean, that could be what could spark him outputting offensively. So I get those little digs in while you can.
And you can see that even in his interviews as well. Like he has that confidence and he's kind of like beaming as well. Like, yeah, you saw what I just did. I'm gonna keep doing that. Like it last night he just looked more mature. Like game wise and even pregame as well.
I'm seeing a lot of similarities and totally different styles of players, but just in terms of their mentality and their confidence with Tippett and Frost right now. I think Tippett's, it's ahead of him, and I think Tippett is going to be a hell of a player. I think he already is a hell of a player. But you're starting to, there was that moment at some point earlier in the season where you saw Tippett start to think, oh, I belong here. Right. And I think maybe we're seeing that with Frost. And I think, hey, we give Frost he's such a polarizing figure as he has been for the last, and that's the way it rolls with draft picks that the Flyers take. Like if you survive the gauntlet here, we'll bring you in, but he's still in the gauntlet right now. But if those two guys are stepping up and all of a sudden TK and Couturier and Farabee don't really have to carry the entire load, but Frost and Tippett are really starting to jump in and carry a majority of it as well. And then you throw Atkinson in there from time to time. He gets a little streaky, but okay, you have a solid nucleus. Is it perfect? No, of course not. But you know what? If you had the betting lines on there, Winnipeg, Florida, probably the Kraken even at this point. But we're playing and beating good teams because of better rounded forward playing.
Yeah. So is this enough right now? And have you guys seen enough to think that Morgan Frost deserves another contract with the Flyers?
No, I have
no.
Nope.
Okay.
I think no. I don't see I
guys do realize he's signed through next year, right?
Yeah, he's got another year on there, and I think if he ends up continuing to play like this throughout the end of this year, and I can't believe we're about to say the P word, but if a playoff berth is in the mix, and he shows a little something there, okay, let's see what's going on. I'm not sold on it because I think okay, this is where he was last year as well, and then he regressed a little bit. Let's see if he can continue to build off of this momentum. If he's playing like he did this past week for the next 6-8 weeks, then yeah. Right. I think that's definitely in the cards.
And that's fair. With that other year left on the deal, obviously, you're going to want to see how that plays out too next year. But right now, Matt Casey says no. Hoagie, what say you?
It's too early to tell.
Cop out.
No, honestly, it's too
Answer
early
the question.
tell.
I have an opinion.
That is an opinion. Are you kidding me?
It's a terrible opinion.
Gosh. If he
do I have to prompt you like my son? Do you understand? Yes or no?
Never. No, if he continues on the trajectory that he is right now and has another good offseason and still comes into next season and is still producing the way he is right now at this given time, yes, they sign him for whatever. I don't know what type of deal. I hate doing, fake deals in my head. But I mean, if he regresses and Torts is starting to pull him out of the lineup again, No.
What was that comment? I hate doing fake deals in my
I
head.
hate the fake deals in my head.
Like, what would this contract look like? What would that contract
I
look
hate
like?
that stuff. I hate comparisons.
Where do you stand on it, Derek?
I think he gets a contract.
You think
I
so?
think that barring him having a ridiculous regression to the point where he puts up 20 points in an 82 game season and Tortorella's benching him, and he only plays like 40 games, I think he's earned it. I think that he's on pace to earn it. Now, again, could be a regression, and then everybody's just like, nope, see you later, kick him to the curb. So be it. We'll find another one, but at the same rate right now as it's going, I could see it.
My biggest thing, Derek, is that if he wants a contract, he's going to want longevity, and I just don't know. He's going to want what, 5 years?
Okay.
And so it's like, oh man, are we committing to this guy for 5 years?
What
maybe it's less. Maybe it's 4 year. I don't know, but
yeah, at what type dollar mark though?
Yeah, I don't know.
If he wants term,
this is where the numbers confuse me. Don't do
as
this.
Hoagie said, numbers head hard.
No, it's if he wants longevity, he's gonna have to sacrifice AAV, I think. And we're not talking anything crazy like going from 6 to 3, but like, hey man, like we'll give you a 2-year deal at $5 million. And he's like, no, I want a 4-year deal. Like, okay, then we're gonna have to bump that down to like 4, 4 a year, maybe
the only benefit of doing
4
it
is pretty, honestly. I like that.
I'd be okay with 4. I would be.
I am as well, but what is he, 23, 24?
He's 24 making 2.1 right now.
So like, if he ends up, so that'll lead him right into like his prime basically.
Yep.
And yeah, that's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. I would say the one thing he does have it, or I don't know who has it in their favor, but if they do want to sign him and they do it this offseason, it's a good time to do it because the cap hasn't gone up yet. And so all of a sudden you're getting him on a level that, yep.
Right. Yeah. Could be a Tippett type deal there.
Yep.
Yeah. I was going to bring up Tippett. Do you think he's going to be asking for like that type of
No.
I don't think
not term, but money?
No.
What did Tippett? I know it was 8 years, but what was the money?
6.2.
I think Frost warrants 3.5. If I'm being real.
So Farabee signed at $5 million, and he's younger.
And I still think Farabee's better.
Maybe I'm wrong. It goes up to 4.5, but you cannot. I don't think you can claim that Frost is more effective than Farabee at this point.
Oh no.
Except for last night, Farabee was a little bit of a dud.
Yeah, Farabee has his on and off nights. Not saying that Frost doesn't, but like there are nights where it's like
Farabee has more on nights than off.
True.
He's
looking
more
good.
Noticeable. Yeah.
With the line that he's on right now, he's looking pretty good.
Farabee has not
gears.
watched the game from the press box. That much I know.
That is a good thing.
Frost has been a rep.
But he was a doorman for the whole game. All but 30 seconds.
Switching gears a little bit here. I'm just surfing Twitter. So Giroux took a slap shot and apparently injured Provorov tonight in the Ottawa-Columbus game. And after that happened, Tkachuk finished a hat trick. So hope he's okay. Sorry, Ivan.
Provorov is not going well these days.
Right. No. And the fact that he's on the yeah, Drew's like, take that, you son of a bitch.
No.
But speaking of defense, what we want to get into here, we had spoken about this at length. I believe it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. The seven defensemen, and why? Why are we going with 7D?
Why?
I have my thoughts. I'm sure we all do. Casey's the one that brought this up pre-show. So I'm going to give Casey the floor here to speak his mind regarding the 7 defensemen and all that good stuff.
I think so. Just from a pure X's and O's, or not an X's and O's, but from a pure team setup standpoint, I'm fumbling the words a little bit here, but you don't get continuity with your pairings. You don't get continuity with your forwards, and so it's tough for lines to get chemistry. And even if you're just like, okay, we're gonna have a 2-person fourth line and just rotate some people, it still botches it. And I think you can make it happen for a game or two. But I would argue that a huge part of why we were so worn out, why the players were so worn out going into that break was one, a brutal schedule, and two, you weren't playing lineups the way they're supposed to be played. And right now we have a log jam at defense. And with Jesus Christ, I forgot his name already. Who did we just bring in the trade?
Walker?
Drysdale.
Drysdale, yeah.
With Drysdale, Deloria, like I'm getting them all messed up. With Drysdale in, we now have a logjam, which is a good problem to have. And the issue is that nobody's necessarily playing terribly, but last night was a little bit alarming for me because you have Risto out. Did Zamula play last night?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you have Zamula in, and then you have Stahl in. There is no way that you can legitimize. I think Zamula, while he's made leaps and bounds, he has looked like an absolute liability the last couple games that he's been in. And so I think that you need the continuity in there, and the fact that we don't have confidence in either Deloria being in there, or what I think is the more systemic problem is we don't have confidence in some of our younger guys coming up. Oli Lexell is not the answer right now. Can't believe I'm saying this. Time to bring up Big Bob's.
Time to bring back Bobby.
Bring back Bobby Bink. What's his name? Who's the guy who's tearing it up? Sumala. Let's call the whole thing off. But I think, instead of doing this seven defensemen, 11 forwards, we got to put a little bit of confidence in the players that we have in the system. And if they are not going to cut it, like Lexell is not going to cut it, let's find somebody who is. Let's give some folks a chance. For God's sake, is Wade Allison still alive? Is he out there anywhere?
Who knows?
He's playing down there. I don't think he's having a very good season.
Yeah.
So.
I think my big problem is I see so many people posting on Twitter about this guy's tearing up the AHL, that guy's tearing up the AHL. It's that's great. And I'm happy that, Lexell was tearing up the AHL, doing a great job. Tuamala as well. Think back 5, 6, 7 years ago. Jordan Wheel was one of, if not the best AHL player at one point in time. What did he do in the NHL?
Good.
I didn't mind Jordan Wheel in the
was
NHL.
really good.
He wasn't terrible.
Hold on a second. Let's just take a moment to appreciate what Hoagie just said. He was really good. Oh my God.
Oh, you're not even a dad yet. You're dad.
Wow, you're far ahead of us, man, and we've been in the game a few years now. But
listen, man, that kid is playing in the German hockey league right now, tearing it up.
I much to Matt Casey's point, I liked Jordan Wheel, and I thought he was a good hockey player. But it goes to show, so many people think because they're tearing up the AHL, they're going to tear up the NHL. Mm-hmm. And not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody should think that way, because it's unrealistic. I get that it's the minors, and you expect those guys to come up and make an impact. However, your Denoyers, who are tearing up juniors, Zayd Wisdom was doing well in juniors. Those guys right now, what are they doing in the AHL? Mm-hmm. You could argue that I'm not going to say they're a bust, but are they going to make an impact at the NHL level? I don't think so. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense all the time. Tuamala might come up and just set the Wells Fargo Center on fire with his play. Mm-hmm. Great. Lexell's not doing that. And you can argue, well, he's getting 5 minutes a night. Okay, but what's he doing with those 5 minutes? Is he making a difference in this game? I don't think so.
It's taking penalties.
It's his first couple shifts that are just absolutely brutal. Where wasn't it last night's first goal where he just could not gain control of it?
Yeah,
and that Dumba just fired it on net, and it just happened to go in. Any good team, mm-hmm. The next tier team, has a player that makes that play and gets the puck out of the zone. Mm-hmm. You cannot have that type of liability on one. Yes, a rebuilding roster, but a roster that's playing themselves into a playoff spot right now. Like
Mhm.
you need to make a choice there.
I think that plays into it too, because this team doesn't have the time to get these guys acclimated if they are going to make a push for the playoffs. Like,
Right.
yes, I acknowledge that we're rebuilding, and those are the moves that are going to be made towards the deadline as well. But like, there's still goals in place to make the playoffs given their standing right now. They
Mhm.
don't have time for like Sell to come up and get himself acclimated. They don't have time for Tuamala to take 10 to 15 games to get adjusted to the NHL
Mhm.
pace. They need guys to click and go right away, hit the ice running. Like, they've got to make sure that that's what's going to happen. And right now, it's not happening with like Sell. But what are the other options?
Well, I think one of the things you have to consider is a lot of times when you're looking at call ups in the past, it's been like, oh, we need this guy as a third line winger. If you're bringing up guys from the minors in the top 6, then that's a bigger issue in my opinion.
Right.
But right now we have the flexibility because I think that Paling, quite frankly, has played himself into, instead of a bottom, a fourth line role,
center.
he's a bottom 6 role. Like he gives some flexibility. Lawton has the ability to play up and down, the middle 9, middle bottom 9 there. So I don't think we need a scorer. I don't think we need a check. I think we just need someone, whoever is best fit and best equipped to come up and play. We can find a role for them. If it's a fourth line guy, is that what Denoyer is supposed to be? Is basically a fourth line guy,
Bottom 6.
but
he's got an offensive upside, but like he's not a fourth line. Like
Right.
he's not
He's not your
line.
grinder
Right.
type that's going to punch you in the mouth. Like, he's the type of guy that'll outwork you, like maybe like a Cates, but maybe not as defensively minded as Noah Cates.
And
Right.
smaller
So,
as well.
but if we need some offense, the one the one guy who's played is Brink. If we need, I'm sure we have a couple bangers down there who can come in and play a bottom line role and do okay. So I don't think, we have plenty of middle 6 guys in there that can fluctuate in, that bottom 9 positions, and we have enough people who can play wing or center. So I just, back to the original point though, I just don't see how this 7D is sustainable. And I think, I think we can all agree a trade is imminent, even though we are in a playoff position, because we also have depth on defense down there. I mean, the stat that we played like 11 defensemen this year.
And that's just a wild stat just in itself.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not too worried about losing a defenseman right now if it means that we can make some room for, a more complete roster on the forward front.
Right. And that means basically we're probably going to be starting a guy like Mark Stoll every night on the blue line, which, like, not the greatest, but okay. There's certainly worse options out there. That could mean more ice time for Zamula, which I'd be somewhat comfortable with. I think he's played pretty well.
He's earned it. He's had a rough couple games though.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's going to come. That comes with age. It always historically takes defensemen longer to develop and get acclimated to the game and hit their prime. But you've got also guys down in the minors that you could call up. Addard waiting in the wings. I'll argue this once again. Belpedio looked good when he was up here. He could come up for some short stints. Yeah. Like, there's
Neil Andre
too. I mean, he could come right back up and hopefully, find himself a slot on this team. There are plenty of options on the blue line, and it's honestly the first time in a while that it's like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Right.
Now it's the forwards that we're concerned about. So I think that plays into it. And, given the deadline coming up here, we're likely going to see at least one defenseman get dealt. And to that point, again, Matt Casey had brought this up prior to the show. It seems to be between 2 gentlemen, Sean Walker, Rasmus Ristolainen. There's some talk about both of them, teams coveting them, wanting them on their team for a playoff run. Hoagie, I'll go to you first here. Of the 2, which one is most likely to get dealt?
I mean, I'm just going to pick the easy one to deal is Sean Walker on a $2.65 million deal that expires this year. Rista with a 5.1 cap hit for another 3 years. That's that's really talking like rebuilding Flyers, cap eating Flyers type of deal. Like Walker's the easy one to do at this point. And honestly, this 11-7 isn't going to get easier until somebody is dealt. Because and Torts has said this. He's like, we're just going to keep going with it because as we said, none of these defensemen are playing bad enough to really come out of the lineup right now. They're still making very impactful plays in the game, and it's a difference this year. So, and honestly, Drysdale really kind of screwed up things as well because a roster spot didn't go in return. It was a prospect.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, Sean Walker is the easy one, but I feel like a pretty good package a first round pick should be offered for a Sean Walker.
Yeah, a lot of talk around first round picks or a second and a prospect.
Right.
I'd be happier with the first, but I'm not gonna, get too disappointed with a second and a prospect, depending on the prospect. But Matt Casey, what are your thoughts? Who gets traded in your mind?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. One is it seems conspicuous to me that Risto was out with an illness a couple days ago. Now he's out with something else last night. It just seems a little
upper body injury. Night.
We're sniffing something out here, but
upper body injury in the nose.
I'm with you. I think that Walker's trade value is never going to get higher than it is right now, and he's 28. He's on an expiring contract. He has a palpable cap hit, which is retroactive, and so that's it. Ends up. I think. If we can get, I can't believe someone would give us a first for it. I cannot believe it, but maybe the market is as such where they would.
If someone's desperate and that's like the last ditch scenario, I feel like a first rounder is easy to grab.
You know what's going to determine it too, though, is Calgary, because Tanev is apparently the coveted guy on the market.
Is the first,
he'd be the first domino to fall to set the market, but with Calgary playing the way they're playing right now and in a playoff spot, to my knowledge, they might not trade him. And if they don't, then Walker could be the market setter. And that has its advantages and disadvantages. But a team's going to get desperate, and they're going to look at Sean Walker and say, all right, if I can't get Tanev, that's the guy I'm going to get. And Danny Briere's going to have 3, 4, 5 teams calling him saying, I want this guy. And that's when you drive that price right up.
Yep. And so if Walker ends up staying, I'm not going to be upset because I've been
right.
And even if we extend the guy 2 years, I'm not going to be upset. I think he's a good player. I just do not feel that Risto's cap is easily movable and without eating a bunch of salary. Which I'm not nuts about doing right now because I don't think Risto is a bad player. And then the other part of this is I'm still really eager to see if, and this is a big if, we do make the playoffs, knock on wood, knock on everything here. I'm dying to see what Risto can do in the playoffs because he's the guy you hate to play in a 7-game series. And no one's ever seen it. The guy's like, he's like, he's Bigfoot. He's a myth.
Right.
You've never seen him in the playoffs. You don't know what he's capable of. But can you imagine somebody that you're looking less forward to going against than Rasmus Ristolainen in a 7-game series? You're like, God damn, I got to check against this Neanderthal for the next 2 weeks. Like, are you kidding me?
And with the way he's been playing this year, he's just been lights out, nasty. Honestly. Yeah. Brad Shaw and towards whatever they've done with Risto is just incredible. Because I mean, the first night when he was out with the illness, like we were talking, the game before, everybody was like, I thought Risto had a really good game. Like, why is he out? Why is he scratched? And I was like, honestly, that was one of the most like noticeable defensive games that I've ever seen Risto play because he was just so defensively sound and just making the right plays. And I'm sure that just drove the price higher. And now we're playing with this illness, upper body injury type of thing.
Right. It's asset protection.
Yep. Yeah, and they show him skating in warm up or not warm ups, practices or morning skates. So like,
it's what it's going to break down to is the Flyers could find a deal for either of these guys. We know that. There's deals to be had for anybody at this point. However, with Ristolainen in particular, it's going to be a matter of what we're going to get based off of how much we retain. It was that way with, I think it was Hayes. We weren't getting anything really, and we had to retain X amount just to get this or whatever it might be. But if the Flyers are willing to retain, let's say 50%, I really do think there's a good deal to be had there. Now it could be 25%. You get a second round pick or, a conditional third or something like that. I don't know. Again, that's why I'm not the GM, but there will have to be some sort of retention there because no playoff team that's a perennial good playoff team that could make a legitimate run at the Stanley Cup is going to have the cap space to make that work unless they're either A, sending something back in return, which they likely won't because it'll be a roster player, or B, the Flyers are willing to retain on that. You could weaponize that. Danny Briere could absolutely weaponize the cap that he has and make something work in their advantage with a Ristolainen deal. You wouldn't have to do that with Sean Walker, though. So that's the easier trade to make, in my opinion.
Right.
Not saying the best deal to make because obviously we don't know what he could potentially get for either of them. But yeah, I don't know.
Do you think that Sealer's totally off the market at this point? I mean, I know I don't want to see him go, but we are kind of flush with left-handed defensemen right now.
That's such an easy trade to make.
Oh yeah,
because mainly just because of his cap hit with the $775,000, and I feel like a team isn't going to offer something juicy enough for the Flyers to bite.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
He's not untouchable. No one on this team should be, honestly. Even a guy like Konechny, I think the right deal could be had. But you're talking about a guy that's the heart and soul of this team, and I think that would be too large of a gut punch to a team with playoff aspirations right now. Not saying, like you had mentioned, if the right deal comes along, but man, I don't know.
Could you imagine a Nick Sealer versus Penguins playoffs first round?
He'd kill a man. He would kill a man.
He would literally just encapsulate the city of Philadelphia's energy into his body.
I mean, that's what I was getting. That's what I like about the defensive core. And yes, we have Drysdale. Yes, we have Sanheim and York, and these guys who are largely finesse, good skating, good, decent puck handling guys. You need some beef back there. And that's why I do not want to get gentle Mark Stahl isn't going to get it done for me right now. And so I just feel, I think you need both those guys back there, quite frankly. And for that, I feel like Walker is the more replaceable one at the moment.
You remember when there was talks of both of them going in a trade together?
How wild to Toronto or something.
Yeah. Right.
He doesn't have a first round pick.
Thank God that will never happen. Because honestly, you're already running 11-7, but to pluck two guys out of your entire lineup that play together all the time, come on.
Someone would have to come up in that scenario, which okay, that could certainly happen, but man, you talk about a gut punch. That is a speed bag right to the gut.
Yeah. And also I just feel like that's a little bit of loser mentality too, where we're
throwing in the towel.
Right now and maybe we'll be there in a month or something like that if the wheels come off, but right now we're not there. And I do think we need to move a defenseman at some point just to even things out and see what we can get. But I'm not upset with going if we do end up April 10th or whatever the last in a playoff spot. I'm okay keeping this team together. I don't think we need that. I don't think we're in the position to do it. And it's all right, man, you guys overachieved. You go take this as far as you can. Go for it. I think that helps make this a more attractive destination in a year when we are going after some free agents.
Right. A lot of this to me, and I mean, you guys could poke fun at this, but this is reminiscent of this past season for the Orioles because I'm a big O's fan. Young talent, a team that was expected to do.
You may have to educate
nothing.
us a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. So you lost me when you said Oriole.
The Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles, Major League Baseball team that has
Is that a
been
dog?
absolutely terrible for years because their owner doesn't want to spend any money. Well, now the owner's gone. This team far overachieved this year with the young talent that they have and made the playoffs with, I think, the second best record in baseball. And they got swept by the Rangers, which sucks. But you're talking about a very young team getting invaluable experience playing in the playoffs this early on in their career. That reminds me a lot of this Flyers team. It's a young team, and they didn't do much at the deadline, when it comes to trading players away, this and that. Now they made a deal over the offseason here and brought in a former Cy Young winner, which is fantastic. But like, aside from that, it's been pretty quiet on that front. They don't need to make those big drastic changes that a true rebuilding team does, because a lot of those pieces are in place. Right. And it's supplementing it. And now the issue with that, though, with the Flyers particularly, is supplementing it with elite level talent, which you could argue that'll be Michkov in a couple years. The allure of playing for a team like this for a free agent, obviously it's an easier sell than it has been in past years now with the way this team's made up. Could it be enough to offset the aura around playing under John Tortorella?
No. Well, look, I think as a young player, it's going to be easier to be like, hey, yeah, I want to learn under Tortorella. I'm seeing what Noah Cates has done. I'm seeing what, Konechny's done and how he's brought his game. Like, I'm seeing what all these guys, Frost, Tippett, on down the line. Right. I think where you get into trouble are the older veteran types who went to Columbus.
Jake Voracek.
No, was it Line?
Line, yeah.
What went towards it, and then like it's like a player like that. It's like, oh, dude, I just when you have prima donnas coming in,
right,
who aren't bought into, like, I think that's where you're going to run into some issues versus the homegrown kind of younger guys that you're able to get into the system.
And honestly, the way this regime is going, the front office and even Torts, is they don't want that type of prima donna all-star. They want to.
Nobody's bigger than the team,
right? They want an all-star, but they want somebody that plays for the team and their teammates.
Right.
That's just how they are, and that's the old school Flyers way. You know what I mean? Like, they
don't want an Austin Matthews. They want like a Nathan McKinnon.
They want someone to build around and that will put the team on his back at the same time.
Right.
I look. Sorry, back to like so yeah. Theoretically, you're playing a team in the playoff. You're playing the Flyers in the playoffs. You got to deal with Risto and Sealer on the back end. Then you got to deal with Delorier, Hathaway, Paling, Lawton to an extent. Like, I mean,
Coots even too defensively, and Cates.
I'm just saying pure like,
just pure like nastiness.
Like nastiness.
Oh yeah.
Like, then you got to deal with TK like chirping in the background, like over everyone's shoulder. He doesn't do that as much. But
isn't that wild that like TK is now back to that like yippy barky type of player? Like,
I don't think he really is, man. I think
the past couple games he's been a little like,
he's that guy to us, but the way he's toned it down, I think it's a substantial jump from where he was versus where he's at now.
But I feel like over the past couple of games, I don't know, this could just be them just focusing on it. Yeah, you can just see him. Like, he just makes so many comments and so many faces. I'm like, bro.
That's when he thrives. That's when he thrives,
it definitely is. I'm not knocking it. I'm just like, where did this version of TK come back from? Like, did he just go on an absolute bender during the All-Star break as well? Like,
he has 7 points in these past 4 games. Like, if that's what has him producing points, keep doing it.
Absolutely.
Brad Marchand does it every single game, and he's done it for years. And
right.
The other one, like the other night where he got he had the Gordie Howe hat trick, and like everybody asked Torres, and that obviously that was the game that they played terrible throughout the rest of it. And Torres like, I don't care. But like that's the type of player Tease is coming back to.
I will say the one guy, like, I think Paling just signed an extension, right? He did. Hathaway has got us. He scares the living crap out of me.
He
That
needs
man
to
is
fight
psychotic.
Like
he
he's
needs
a
to fight
he's a
somebody.
psycho. Like if you watch interviews with him, you're like,
Don't look in his eyes.
I'd love to
Don't
just
look in his eyes.
sit down and talk with him for 15 minutes.
what if he's
Like-
like incredibly well read and just like, yeah, I often quote sonnets before I go out on the ice, and then I rip their fucking
Those
head.
guys are those types of guys, though. Like the
Right.
psychos on the ice are usually the ones that, like, off the ice are the coolest, most mild mannered.
Right.
Long gone are the days of the Sean Averys where they're just psychos in and out.
He reminds me. I was trying to like. There's times where he's like in a scrum and you just like see the eyes come out. You know the movie The Fighter with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg. Like the scene where like he's like, "Don't touch my brother," and he's like going nuts. It's like that's what he reminds me of.
Yep.
Of cracked out Christian Bale.
Right.
Oh yeah. So we're 50 minutes into this. We wanted to touch on a little bit about the confidence level regarding the goalie situation here. But there's another interesting comment that we had that I'd like to get to just to have a little bit of fun at the end of the show here. So real quick, in terms of the goalie play here, these past 4 games, I'll go to you, Casey, first. Where's your confidence level at with the Sam Ersson, Cal Peterson tandem?
Right now, I'm at about a 7. I'm right there. I think Ersson's earned it, and I would say a week and a half ago or a week ago, I was probably at a 4.
Right.
Actually, I think we even called it. I think I was at like a 5. But
Yep.
Peterson came in and gave a solid start. Good for him.
Yeah.
Was that Seattle? Was that the game?
Seattle game, yep.
And again, I think if they go to a 3-to-1 ratio, given the schedule on the last couple months are a little lighter, I think that's going to pay dividends in there just to get him some starts and keep him fresh. And you know what? Good for him, man. Like, he's been through the gauntlet. He's got a brutal cap hit from what I understand. And, if this is his second shot, hey man, this is what it's about. Like you had to grind it through for a couple of years. Let's see what you can do.
Right. Where do you stand on it, Hoagie?
Yeah, I mean, as we were all nervous that Cal Peterson was coming in to back up. But I mean, he played a solid game against Seattle. The more Ersson plays, the better he gets. I think the more shots he sees, the better he is. More pucks he feels, the better he is too. There's been some wacky redirections as well that he is able to get a pad on or something like that. So he's been looking really good. Honestly, like Casey said, 3-to-1 ratio. I would love that to end this sprint to the season, because I think everybody would argue about it. 3-4 weeks ago, right around the holiday break, who's your starter when playoffs start? Right now,
Sam Ersson.
undeniably, it's Sam Ersson, right? So
Right.
yeah, I'm excited. On a scale, probably I'm about an 8, because Ersson just plays lights out almost every night.
I'm with you there. I'm right at an 8. I'm not, full throttle. Let's go. Sam Ersson's the man, but like, I'm pretty damn confident given these past 4 games and 3 that Ersson played in. If we're gonna get, what is it? I think he stopped 19 to 22 shots like Cal Peterson. If we're gonna get that type of performance and the Flyers can score more than 3 goals when Peterson's in net, 100% confident. I could care less about the stats. Get us the wins, But I'm just, I don't know, man. I think it's a true testament to Sam Ersson battling through the adversity he battled through, given the news surrounding Carter Hart, the unfortunate news, and I think that this could be really, really good. I want to think that, Sam Ersson's here to stay. I want to think that he could be a long-term solution, not to mention the goalies they have in the pipeline between the 2 guys, the one Russian kid, Kolosov, the Bjornstrom. I think he's Bjorn.
Like
yeah.
Carson,
yeah.
something.
And then obviously the other one is Zavragan, the other Russian kid. So there's relief on the way. They've got some good goalies in the system, but right now it could be Ersson's crease for the taking, and I don't see anybody taking it anytime soon. So yeah, confidence level's high there. So anything else to add to the goalie conversation before we wrap things up with a little bit of fun?
Honestly, I like that too, because like even if they still continue to go pretty well this season, going to next season, you have both of them signed throughout the following season, so you could just run it back. Honestly, granted they both play well.
Sure, certainly. All right then. So this comment came in right towards the beginning of the show, and everybody knows about what's going on with the press conferences. But Xenothium 15 on YouTube, will Tortorella ever take another question from Ant? Ant being Anthony Sanfilippo of Crossing Broad, and we all joke about it. Like it's funny to me, I think it's hilarious. I'm sure you guys do too, but I'm not gonna lie, like I'm kind of annoyed by it, but at the same rate, I'm just like whatever. Tortorella's gonna do what he's gonna do. What say you, Hoagie? We already know what you're gonna say.
I love it. And I'll keep it to that. I just hope they have fun with their silly little podcast.
What about you, Casey?
Yeah, I think it's I get where Torts is coming from, but I'll say this. Tortorella, you're like 67, dude. Like at some point, and this isn't just the Crossing Broad rivalry that's emerged, and again, we can all understand the background of that. But after every game, win or lose, like, dude, just you can give more than one word answers. Like when you get good Torts answers is actually on practice days. That's when he actually opens up a little.
Yeah, he's very relaxed and very
after
very
the
open.
games. It's like, dude, stop being such a petulant freaking child. Like, really, like answer the questions. It's part of the role. You're getting paid a lot of money to do this.
To be fair, he's answering the questions. It's just
one word answer. Yeah,
answers.
Right.
One word answers. And whoever I think he works for the team. I'm not sure who it is, but he basically has to ask the question and like give the answer, and Tort says like yes or no. Like he's like, Couturier has been tough. It looked like he was excited when he scored the goal. Was he excited? Yes. Like, like that kind of, it's not really, he's not offering up information. I get it. It's an annoyance to him, but dude, that's part of the game. That's why you're a head coach. And I don't think, at this point he's not going to change, but it's a little bit, it's childish to me.
Yeah.
I honestly,
I see that.
The reporters, they throw up some beach balls to Torts, and it's just like
they don't want to get smacked. Yeah, they don't want to get yelled at.
It's different. Like with Hackstall, you could ask anything. I mean, I was the guy that he like got pissed off at in the playoff series when I asked a question because I kept. So I asked him about the stick infractions because they had like 3 or 4 in one game against Pittsburgh, and I'm just like, listen, X amount of stick infraction penalties tonight, kind of a rough look for the penalty kill as well. Like, what are you going to be doing to try to mitigate that moving forward? Because Penguins have a very dangerous power play. And he's like, oh, well, we'll make the adjustments in practice and that's where we're going to go. And then like later on, he was just like, I didn't mean to, and I'm just like, you made yourself very clear, Dave. Now pack your bags, get out.
Right. But get on your ski-doo and get out of here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Back to the whole Anthony Sanfilippo thing. Like, not here to cause drama. It's entertaining to me. I think it's funny because a guy said something that he heard from a source. Whether he checked that or not, don't know. Maybe we'll never know. I think there's lessons to be learned here for both parties. I think saying something that carries that type of weight bears consequences. And these are those consequences. So if you're going to want to get, your nice quotes for your stories from Tortorella on the questions that you ask, you might want to be careful what you say. So
right.
It's just my 2 cents. Again, not looking to stir shit up, but is what it is.
We've got others out there that will stir it up.
Yeah, Hoagie.
I haven't done anything.
Don't look at you like I look at my kid. Yeah, we won't get into the whole BSH stuff, but
That was months ago.
oh, come on, man, you're stirring it up every night. It feels like
Sometimes,
right or wrong.
Wait, who was the genius who didn't calculate the number of games we had until we recorded? On the post, they were like, "Hey, join us Tuesday night. We're going to talk about 3-game winning streak."
I posted it before the Arizona game. It was a 3-game win streak at that point in time.
But
okay,
it would have been another game to
play.
Yeah,
we were on a 3-game win streak. We had not won our 4th game. Hoagie corrected it, which thank you, Hoagie. I appreciate that.
So it either would have been a 4-game win streak or a 3-1 record.
I corrected it today, saying, "Hey, we're on a 4-game win streak."
I'm going to make this abundantly clear. When I posted that tweet from our account, we had won 3 games in a row with 1 left to play before we recorded. Was I factually incorrect?
No, but you said we'd be talking about the 3-game win streak.
Yes, because it was whether we won or lost, it was still a 3-game win streak.
Doesn't matter. You're wrong. I miss John.
Numbers in the head are hard.
We are done. We are done. I never thought I'd hear that come out of Hoagie's mouth. I've heard far crazier things that I expected to hear from Hoagie, but that right there takes the cake. We're done. All right, check out our affiliates. Yeah, no, Hoagie, I'm not even going to give you guys the opportunity. You can find Hoagie on Twitter, on X, whatever. I don't care. Casey doesn't use it unless he's on his desktop. Check out our affiliates over at Flyers High and Wide. They're on Twitter on
2GS.
They're on X at Flyers HW. Our buddies over at the 5 Minute Major Podcast are on X at 5 Min Major Pod. Fellas, it's been a pleasure. And everybody listening, enjoy this upcoming week of hockey, and we'll talk again next week.
Bye now.